how did the gold get in the mountain, Superstition Mountain again?
God.
What?
I don't know. I forgot. Like, how did the
Gold mine? Like, what is a gold mine?
No, but like
The gold's there.
So when phosphorus and ore love each other very much.
Is that actually gold?
No, I have no idea.
so.
Phosphorus.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, brethren and sistren, welcome to the Cash Me Outside podcast, Lost Treasure Series, Season 2, Episode 2. My name is Alex. I'm joined with my esteemed treasure hunter friends, Chad and Christian. Gentlemen, how the hell are you?
Do you really think there's girls that listen to this?
There might be. No, my mom is a
can you
confirmed
imagine?
listener. Hi, Mom.
We have demographics.
Yeah.
It's like 70% men.
Okay.
Also, the TikTok demographics, like 95% men.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Look at
Speaking of
this.
demographics, shout out to our audience in Houston. Randomly, I saw on Spotify we have a nice little following in Houston, Texas. So
Really?
Yeah.
Like it's a
just
significant
randomly,
group?
yeah. Like it's like our second biggest geographic demo.
I wonder if that's my friend Kyle. And his however
Kyle's
many
friend.
people.
I love it. Guys, I'm really excited about this episode. I can kind of give the precursor, but before that, we want to we're introducing a new segment this week.
First off, this is very experimental. 2, it's just an excuse for me because I really like talking about conspiracies.
Mm-hmm.
And to be perfectly honest with everyone, I don't love treasures. So this is my attempt to just steer us in a direction.
Chad's conspiracy
Okay.
corner.
It's always good to hear that they're not really passionate about the subject they're talking about.
I've said this before. Like, this isn't my favorite thing in the world. Subject. I like being here talking to my friends.
Yeah.
That is why I'm here.
I love it.
Now, I'm going to add something I'm a little bit more interested in. Have you guys ever heard of the Green Children of Woolpit?
No, I've never heard any of those things.
Is this a Dr. Seuss thing?
No. Okay, so 12th century, these 2 kids come stumbling into the village of Woolpit. Woolpit, I think, comes from wolf pit. Like, they had a bunch of wolf pits all over the place.
You explain real quick for the listeners, because I know, but I don't think the listeners know. What's a wolf pit?
A wolf pit is a trap for wolves.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Anyways, they found them unconscious. They were just green colored. Okay. All they would eat are beans. They were speaking a strange language. They were unconscious there by the pit. They revived them, obviously.
Wait, did they know these children? Are these like children that got lost in the town, or
children,
just strange children that showed up?
No, strange children showed up speaking a foreign language that they've never heard. The sister they described her as very wanton and impudent. Anyways, they raised these kids. They eventually started speaking their language.
Did they stay green?
They tried to get them on normal food,
Right.
and the sister was able to get on normal food, but the brother actually died. 12th century.
Yeah.
So listen, wait. There is sources, okay, and I'll explain the sources. The girl said that she came from a land when she was able to speak English, where the sun never shone and the light was like twilight. That's what she said. She described it like that. She said it was called St. Martin's Land. Okay, these kids actually existed because they are brought up in historical texts throughout the centuries. 50 years from the time that it happened,
People were talking
25 miles from where it happened. So one of the historical texts is from the 2 main ones. William of Newburgh's something in Latin, but it's like Anglican history. He was further away.
Yeah.
And then 60 years later, another historical text. These are historians from that time talking about these 2 children. One of them seemed very confident. The other one was like, I forget the terminology that was used, but he was like, I'm forced to believe that. He's like, I'm receiving a lot of pressure to write this type of thing. And throughout his text, he was like, it seems like this is kind of crazy.
They're like, Peter, write about the green children.
This is essentially Christian in the 12th century.
I'm a lobbyist for the Society of Green Children.
Can I tell you?
Anyways, that is the story of the green children.
I love that. Can I tell you my theory on this?
Yeah.
Because this is me, not historians. Historians, I have noticed, tend to be mostly kind of fairly sober personalities, serious personalities. But if I was a historian in the 12th century, 100%, I would be like, you know what's really going to F with people in 600 years? I'm with my historian buddy in some dark candlelit basement, hey, let's write this down. This is going to just freaking blow people's minds in 1,000 years.
When you do the thing where you just insert like random adverbs into things.
Yeah, that's ad lib.
Ad lib. Yeah, they're just like two historians are like, what do you think? Green? Okay, the green
was
children. They ate nothing but green beans. Fell into a wolf pit.
2 words. Wolf pit.
Like just Bill and they got real drunk. Anyways,
I love it.
I
would want that to be. I don't think that's true because I can imagine a 12th century story.
You're a historian, and so your job is
serious personality. But gosh, that'd be so funny.
To me, when it's that far in the past, it's like a translation thing. Like it's really like Bill, like lost a leg on the way to the market, and then somehow like translation is like, oh, leg actually is very close to the word bean, and market is wolf pit.
Are we kind of leading into your kind of perspective on like religion? And
just the apostasy of translations. If we could get one original translation, I'd feel a lot better about it. But I don't know, when it's that far in the past. Like I barely believe anything from the 19th century. Like I got like my grandparents sharing stuff, then I'm like, that didn't happen.
Okay,
dude.
So
by the way, I will say this: I'll be with my buddies, and they will tell a story of something that I did or said 10 years ago, and I have no recollection.
If it's like
so if it's anything from then, you just won't believe it based on the fact that it's far away. So like, what about like a petroglyph that shows a car, and it's that's not true. I'm just saying, if there was something unbelievable like a petroglyph that showed a car, what would you think about it?
I think
you'd say that's 100% fake, even though it's been identified
here's
as
the
from then.
Very good question. The difference in it is one is like a physical object that can be seen and like carbon dated and tested. Another is some person's story about green children that showed up in a wolf pit. So whenever it's
Words
just like
are just physical objects.
No, I mean, you're a physical object.
It's the same thing.
So it's not the same thing.
Yes, it is. It's the exact same thing.
How is it the exact same thing?
If there is
stories can be just are as fickle as the human memory.
And that is a perfect segue into the story of the Dutchman.
All right.
Great work, Christian.
We've got some unresolved. You just cut that.
We're going to go conspiracy fights to start every episode.
Yes.
So, quick refresher. This season, we chose to explore a treasure called the Lost Dutchman's gold mine in the Superstition Mountains in Arizona, just outside of Phoenix and Mesa. And in last episode, we kind of gave an introduction to the origin of the gold mine, right, of the Lost Dutchman gold mine. We talked about the Peralta family out of Mexico who were granted the rights to mine those mountains and expose, it's supposedly found like incredibly rich gold mines. We talked about how the Superstition Mountains were home to the Apache thunder god and that they protected those mountains, including slaughtering the Peralta mining camp and supposedly killing hundreds and hundreds of Peralta miners in defense of the Superstition Mountains, and how the Peraltas, as a product of that, abandoned those and went back to Mexico City. Now we're going to tell the story of the Dutchman. So how the mine gets its contemporary name, the Lost Dutchman's gold mine. The first thing to point out about the Dutchman, he is not a Dutchman.
Okay.
Jacob Waltz was born at 1810 in Württemberg, Germany. So he was a Deutschman. He immigrated to the United States, and back in that time, because they spoke Deutsch, which is the German word for German, people would call German immigrants at that time Deutschmen. And over time, that kind of got perverted or translated into Dutchman. So in his 30s,
why are they? What?
So like a word got like misconstrued over time. Anyways, continue.
Point Christian. So the record goes that he immigrated in the 1840s or 1850s, so in his 30s or 40s. He came out to the United States. He originally landed in New Orleans and then fairly quickly made his way to the Midwest and then joined in the California Gold Rush. So went out to California. He was a miner. Did
his parents go with him?
He was accompanied.
He's a miner.
After
in the camera.
After California, he relocated to Arizona, and that's where, guys, the party starts. So 1860s, around then, he is kind of where people speculate he started in Arizona. But there's a couple of things that potentially, or that are rumored to have happened. Around this time, he meets with, or he starts partnering with this other Jacob Weiser. I read one account that said that Jacob Weiser was actually his nephew, but by most accounts, he was another miner that Jacob Waltz partnered with. At some point in their journey of mining, right? So they worked, the California Gold Rush, and then they were working for a mine in Arizona. Stories put Jacob Waltz, or both Jacob Waltz and Jacob Weiser, in Mexico City. One story goes they were at a bar, cantina, if you will, in Mexico City, and there was a. Is that not right, Chad?
I don't know. I'm trying to remember what bars were called.
Bar Rio.
Cantina?
Yeah. So they were at a bar, and there was a card game going on, and as happens in card games in the 1800s, the 6-shooters came out and people started throwing fisticuffs. Either Jacob Waltz or both Jacobs jumped into the fight and saved a guy that was about to get jumped or killed. And legend has it that guy's last name was Peralta. Dutchman. And one storyline goes that as a show of gratitude for saving this guy from this bar situation, this Peralta guy bestowed on Jacob certain maps in the form of stones, and said these are maps to an old family mine that is full of gold.
I really don't like this.
I don't like
that.
Yeah.
Well, okay, here's the deal. Number one, we've learned this from last season. What's up with saving people and the normal go to?
Isn't that's like
thank you for saving people?
I feel like that is a canon of treasure hunting stories.
Well, I feel like
somebody saves somebody and gets a map.
Yeah.
It's very folklory. It doesn't sound real.
Oh, sorry, scientist Chad.
No, okay.
Oh.
I just presented a story about 2 green children from underground. Okay.
They're in some bar in Mexico City, that's real. And here's the thing, maps on stones, I just think
guys,
come on.
I read it on a message board, so it's obviously true.
I hope the map
otherwise what are moderators even for?
I hope the map on a stone is just a picture of
So by the way, no, hold on.
Star.
The Peralta stones, those are real. Those are in a museum. You can go look at them.
And they're stones that are maps?
They are stones with drawings, and it's a map.
Have you seen them?
I've seen pictures of
them.
They
look very cartoony.
Yes. Yeah, they're funky.
Yeah.
Like panels?
It looks like a giant
captions?
No. It looks like
it's got a little swirl and then a drawing of a deer and then 1850 or whatever inscribed in it. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, Kate, that's one story. Guys, my job is to lay out all the different rumors and stories. Another story that's kind of somewhat similar is that while he's in Mexico City, Jacob Waltz establishes a drinking buddy, a man named Ludi, L-U-D-I, and that drinking buddy just happens to be... Name? Yeah. In Latin America. Have you ever watched the Brazilian soccer team?
Is he on the team?
Yeah. That guy happened to be an employee, a current or former employee of the Peralta family, and happened to have access to the Peralta family maps. And Ludi was like, hey, dude, let's go grab these maps and let's go make some dollar bills. And he did. He went and grabbed the maps from the Peralta family. And then we never hear from Ludi again because the story goes that the Dutchman, Mr. Waltz, killed him.
Yeah.
So that all kind of happens. By the way, there's no substantiation that they were ever actually in Mexico City. These are just some of the stories, right? That are that would explain what happens next, which is Jacob Waltz and Jacob Weiser find themselves in Arizona in the 1870s, and there's a lot of records of this. They start going up into the Superstition Mountains and mining some mines and bringing back gold, right? The next kind of suspicious thing happens, which is one of the times where they're up there. Jacob Weiser is killed by Apache Indians, and Jacob Waltz escapes. The story around town, though, quickly spreads that that's not what actually happened, that Jacob Waltz killed Jacob Weiser to cut a partner out of the deal.
Now he's none the wiser.
That's right. Great.
Christian,
that's what we're here for.
Christian, with the puns.
The other story that's kind of spreading around town at the time is that Jacob Waltz and Jacob Weiser aren't even, in fact, people that have a treasure map at all or are even mining these mines. The story is that they were working for another mine several towns over and that they stole all the gold from that mine and made off like bandits, and were hiding now kind of near the Superstition Mountains, and kind of almost using the story of gold mines in the Superstition Mountains, and in particular around Weaver's Needle, which is a big landmark in the Superstition Mountains, as their kind of way of laundering that gold, if that makes sense, legitimizing that gold.
So just to clarify, Weiser disappeared, and that is like a fact.
Yes.
And the stories are, how did he disappear?
That's right.
One is he was murdered. One is he
was killed by the Apache Indians. One is that he was killed by Waltz.
But he did actually disappear.
So that's kind of the like another potential murder, another potential body on Jacob Waltz's
hit list
there. He's kind of a guy. But then the stories of this Jacob Waltz. So once Jacob Weiser's out of the picture, the stories are that he kind of spends the next couple of decades, right? 1870s, 1880s, living a kind of modest life. He had a farm just outside of town. He'd kind of go up into the mountains every couple months, bring back a little bit of gold, but did not live a lavish life at all. And by this time, he's in like his, later age. He's in his like 70s and 80s, right? Something happens in 1891. We're getting to the end of the Dutchman's life. In 1891, there's a gnarly flood that hits the town, and it destroys most of Jacob Waltz's property, his farm and his house. It also makes him pretty sick. So I think he catches pneumonia from this. And he's old, right? So fortunately, a woman in town, Julia Thomas, starts taking care of him. He's kind of bedridden at the time and nursing him.
What town is this?
I think this is, I think it's Mesa.
Is it Mesa?
Yeah, I think it's Mesa at the time. But she's nursing him to health. I like to think that there's just like a little, intergenerational romance there,
Gross.
You like to,
it's just a love story.
You so like to think about that?
He would be 80. Yeah, he'd be 81 at the time. It's sweet, guys. Yeah. Like,
And she's
just a gold digger. He's a gold digger, but in a different way. I think she was a widow, and I think that she had a kid, if I read the story. So she's kind of old. She's not like in her 80s, but I probably place her in her like 40s, right? And she
sounds legit.
She had a business. I think she ran a shop. We're going to talk a lot. Julia Thomas is going to be the theme of the next episode.
Oh, okay.
So the story goes just as the teaser. Julia Thomas is nursing Jacob Waltz on his deathbed, and he eventually, as kind of a gesture of gratitude, pulls off the floorboards of his house, or his kind of rebuilt house, and there's a bunch of gold, and he gives it to her. He says, "This is yours." And then he also tells her about the gold mine and gives her the map of where to find the gold. So this is where it gets cool, because Julia Thomas has a reasonably well documented life as well, and we'll get into it. But this kind of triggers this sequence of people who, like in last season, just dedicate the rest of their lives to trying to find the treasure, trying to find the gold mines. October 5th, 1891. So after several months of, kind of battling the pneumonia, being nursed by Julia Thomas, Jacob Waltz dies. And that is the end of the story of the Dutchman.
How did the gold get in the mountain, Superstition Mountain again?
God.
What?
I don't know. I forgot. Like, how did the
gold mine? Like, what is a gold mine?
No, but like
the gold's there.
So when phosphorus and ore love each other very much.
Is that actually gold?
No, I have no idea.
So
phosphorus.
I apologize. I'm sorry. Some treasures are carried and buried in places. I wasn't sure if there was something going on and there was a treasure.
So listen, that is actually a really good question. The prevailing theory is that there is actually gold mines that actually have veins of gold that can be mined with pickaxes and refined and all of that kind of stuff, like any other gold mine in the Superstition Mountains. However, that is not typical of that area, right? So there's not a lot of evidence to suggest that that is a mountain range that would be rich with gold based on the composition of rocks and everything like that. So that is actually one of the reasons that people are going, it's kind of suspicious. But theory number one is actual gold mines with actual gold in there. Theory number two is that is where the Apaches just kept treasure. So they weren't necessarily treasure accumulators, but one story is, remember I told you that the Spaniards showed up in Arizona and were like, "Donde está el oro?" And the Apaches like, "Oh yeah, we've got oro. They're up in the mountains." And they're like, "Oh cool, we're gonna go take it." And then they're like, "Thunder God."
Yeah,
smacked the Spaniards and they bounced. So one is kind of like the Aztecs last season, accumulated the gold, hid it up in the mountains, or gave it to the thunder god, right? And then story number 3 is what we just talked about, which is Waltz and Weiser. That's looted gold or stolen gold from another mining operation that they brought.
Yeah.
And were kind of,
Okay. Honestly, if I had a map to a gold mine, I don't know if I'd go. Because you'd have to...
Like, what do you do?
Yeah, I don't know what I'm supposed to do once I get there. It's like, okay, there's a wall of gold.
It's really a lost art.
What do I wear? Yeah. It's like, it's not...
There's some guy in, like, West Virginia right now. It's like, damn city boys.
I've been training for this my whole life.
Wouldn't even know what to do if they saw a gold vein.
I don't even know how to gut a fish. I don't know.
I have no idea, like a gold vein. Like, what does that even mean? But to me, like, I'm not trying to be critical of the gold because, you know, you do gold. But, like...
Hey, it's at an all-time high.
Yeah, it's not as sexy when it's like, oh, yeah, there's gold just, like, deep in that mountain. Like, I want a goblet. Like, I want some fine... necklace, right? Like something sexy I can hold in my hand or put on a woman.
To put another way, like
you could just a block of gold.
To be specific, Christian's wife.
It's a niblet of gold.
I think he's talking about you when he says "a woman."
Just trying to work.
I actually like the aspect of like that feels more treasury. Like that is somebody's precious. At some point in history, that was somebody's precious belongings. That's not like a thing I gotta go work for to turn into a precious belonging. I get that.
It definitely gives a vibe that it could be cursed if it already exists.
Yeah, right. There's ghosts and stuff.
Blood involved.
Right. The thunder god, the Apache thunder god doesn't do it for you from a curse perspective.
But don't you feel like they would be able to like test like this water, the sediment, like the dirt and stuff like in the area to know if there was gold? I feel like there would be
that's kind of what I'm saying.
Way.
But you got to remember, dude, the Superstition Mountains are huge.
Well,
like it's a pretty big.
I don't think finding gold veins is a very easy thing to do. With stories from how I've heard of how they prospect. It's not like. There's like the geographical area. It's like there's gold here for sure.
I just trust that like now they have like these like.
All I know is that like, you know, people told me that my grandma was a gold digger and like I never ever. So she must have spent her whole life trying to like mine gold and find it. And I never saw her with any bars of gold. So.
that joke.
Like grandma like lesser.
Well, to be honest, because they're both passed, may God rest their souls. I love both my grandmothers, and I'm not going to besmirch the name of my mother. So
okay, I could have chosen either. Never mind.
There's more stories.
Yes. So as a little teaser, we're going to start getting into it. So by the way, we're starting to stack bodies here, right? We've got Ludi, Jacob Weiser. We've got hundreds of the Peralta mining families or mining camp. There's more bodies. Yeah. So the one of the really cool things about this story, one of the reasons that I chose this is when you get into kind of modern history, when I talk about modern, like 1900s, there's a lot of really suspicious deaths that happen up in the Superstition Mountains to people who are like deliberately looking for the Lost Dutchman's gold mine. And
excited.
He's like, where there's smoke, there's fire. Where there's bodies,
where there's like decapitated remains.
Yeah. Especially in Arizona.
Somebody's protecting something up there.
Totally.
Yeah. Anyway,
should we just follow every murder scene? Like, where's the gold?
Some road rage incident. Like, there's gold involved. I know it.
Anyways.
I love it. All right. Hey, audience, you're great. Thanks for tolerating our long tail to this episode. But this is a really cool story. Can't wait for the next episode. And we'll see you next time.